welcome to another Canadian Racing podcast. I'm your host, Sean Blight. Thank you so much for joining me. In the Northeast here, it is getting closer and closer to racing season. Tracks are starting to open up, events are starting to happen. All we need now is for the weather to hang in. If you are in Southern Ontario, Merrittville Speedway is having an open test session on Saturday. So it's your first chance, if you're in the area, to go check out cars on the track. I know there's going to be several 360 drivers. We're going to be talking with DJ Christie later on in the episode, and he's one of the drivers that's going to be at the test session. So go check that out if you're in the area. Jordan Poirier going to be on the show today, the two-time and defending Empire Super Sprints champion, Pinty's Knights of Thunder champion, and he's dabbling now in 410 racing. And of course, his uncle Steve, Canadian Motorsports Hall of Famer. So thrilled to have him on. His season gets started this Saturday at Outlaw Speedway as the Empire Super Sprints kick off their 2024 season. Myself, I'm heading to Lake Erie Speedway to catch the Race of Champions 250 lap race. Again, we're hoping that the weather holds in. It depends on which day you check, whether the forecast looks good or not. So we're fingers crossed for all three events that they can get going. So again, Jordan Poirier is on the show. Awesome to have him on. Haven't met him in person yet, so it was awesome to talk to him. One of Canada's most accomplished dirt racers, certainly, and big things ahead still for him. And DJ Christie, one of the young up-and-comers in the Southern Ontario Sprint Series, will join me later on. So thanks to both of those guys for coming on the show. I hope wherever you're heading to the track this weekend that it stays nice and warm and dry. And yeah, we'll see you again next week. So here's my conversations with Jordan Poirier and DJ Christie. All right, I'm very happy now to be joined by a two-time and defending Empire Super Sprints champion, Jordan Poirier. Jordan, thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, two-time defending champion of a very competitive series up here in the Northeast. How does that sound?
It feels crazy good. Since I was super young, my uncle raced ESS for the longest I can remember. So it always been a goal for us to win. Just at the beginning, it was running good and then winning races. And then in 2022, when we decided to race for a full championship, it was the goal by the beginning, and has been pretty good since then.
And I definitely want to talk about your uncle a bit. First, you were just saying that you're building a house. You've got a race this weekend at Outlaw, and then you're off to Merrittville the following week. So I really appreciate you taking time out. How's the car looking? Have you had a chance to kind of fire it up, take it anywhere, or are you just kind of going in blind to this weekend?
No, not yet. We fired a car last week. It's been crazy. We've been there's shortage of parts for our engine, so we only has one car ready. There's two on the side. We're just waiting for engine, but we started. It was all good, but we are hopeful to go practice on Friday. Utica or Outlaw, we're not sure where we want to go, but the weather doesn't look it's going to cooperate. So
Hmm.
maybe it'll be first time out Saturday night, and it'll be hammers to the floor, and we'll see what happens.
I guess the good news with that would be that everybody's kind of on the same in the same boat, right? So no one's really got an advantage when it comes to that. But
Yeah, and the first race, the first CSS race, it's not a point race, so
uh,
it's good to shake down the car and see. That's why we want to go to Merrittville. As much as I love the racetrack and everything around it, it's a good test for us to see what the car is doing. We got a brand new car, brand new chassis. We switched to GR1 this winter, so we want to see how that car reacts because Merrittville is so slippery that we had a good setup nose with our Eagle, and now we can compare to somewhat what the GR1 will react, and it'll be a good baseline so we don't lose like 5 to 6 races at the beginning of the year trying to figure out the setup.
right, perfect. So getting back to kind of your start in racing. So for those who may not know, your uncle's a very accomplished racer up here in the Northeast, Canadian Racing Hall of Fame member. Seven-time ESS champion, or is it eight? I
I
can't.
do think it's eight.
It's
I'm not
easy to
so
lose
sure,
count.
but it's many championship, that's for sure.
So maybe talk about kind of how you specifically got started in racing, maybe growing up around your uncle, the influence that he had kind of pushing you into that direction, or your father for that matter.
Yeah, but I've been around racing my whole life. My grandfather owns the racetrack at Drummondville since I think it's '02 or '01. So I've been around racing my whole life. My dad's been helping my uncle for the longest of times. He has been racing himself since probably '08, something like that. So I started racing go-karts on asphalt when I was like 10, 11, or 12. Wasn't very good at it, I must say. So we quickly switched to the slingshot and going back on dirt. And then we moved up slowly to what they call lightning sprint in Quebec. It's like 1,000 cc mini lightning sprint. And then slowly, as my uncle was slowing down on the race on the sprint car side, we slowly bought a car, bought an engine, do one or two races in Quebec. And then when the pandemic hits in 2020, we were ready to go full-time sprint car racing. And then pandemic hits, we kind of slowed down a little bit, but then we've been racing full time from that, and Steve been has been Steve and my dad's been hero of mine for the longest of time. So I've been always look up to them, and yeah, I couldn't do anything else than racing, having that around me.
One thing I definitely wanted to ask you about or get your opinion of, as someone who's never been to a race in Quebec, but anyone who follows racing, you can't help but notice the talent that comes out of Quebec. From F1, IndyCar, you look at the Pinty series, it's dominated by top-end Quebec drivers, the big block modifieds, yourself, so many talented drivers in all these different um, forms of racing. What is it about Quebec that just produces such talent?
I don't know. I think it's the passion is. I feel like the passion is more there in Quebec. As in opposite of Ontario, there's I think more racer but less people in the stands. I don't know it.
Mhm.
Probably it doesn't matter, but I do think the people like when they go racing in Quebec, they go full on. Like it, there's a resource invest into the racing in Quebec from the people that race. So I don't know if that's come from here. It's hard that because I don't think a region produce more racer than another, but I know that Quebec racer has been doing pretty good for ourselves. So I don't really know, but I do I do think we're doing pretty good.
One thing I've noticed out of the pandemic, when you see races on Dirt Vision or Flow Racing in Quebec, like to your point, the stands are absolutely packed. Like Quebec is rabid for racing, which I kind of always knew, but I didn't really fully appreciate it until I could actually see it
Yeah.
on the races on streaming.
Yeah, last year was the first time like sprint car has been in Quebec for the last 4 or 5 years, and the feel of car in the SS switch a little bit. Like there's the old guard and the new guard, but the new guard has never been to Quebec. So I was trying to tell them like you're a rock star when you come to Quebec and you race a sprint car. Like it's like nothing. Like in the US, there might have been like 1,000, 1,500 people in the stands. In Quebec, it rained like up to 8 o'clock. Dame Leclusier and GF never pulled the plug. As soon as it stopped raining, 5,000 people were in the stands. It was just jam-packed. It was crazy. Like you
That's
feel
amazing.
like you're a total rock star out there. So it's fun. Like I know it's far for everybody. Everybody costs so much, but I don't put enough emphasis to the race, or that at least one time in your life you need to go race in Quebec. The people in the stands are just built different, I think.
Yeah, I definitely it's on my bucket list to get to some big dirt races out there for sure. Um, So I lived in Alberta actually for 12 years. I'm from Ontario originally, and I moved back home right as the pandemic hit. So my introduction to you was the Pinty's Knights of Thunder series, kind of when you had limited fans in the stands, and you were pretty dominant in that series. And that was my, oh, this guy's pretty good. So now three, if you include that, you've got three straight championships under your belt. Um, Kind of what are your goals for this year coming up?
I think the goal is to defend our championship. I do think last year wasn't our best year. It was probably the worst of the three last one. I want to win more races. My style of driving is more a little bit more conservative versus some others. So it's good to run a championship like that, but it doesn't give you many race wins. So this year, I must say, I want to try to win more races. I think it's our goal. For sure, we want to defend our championship. I'm not one to be super aggressive. I can be content with a top three, a top five, because I know in the long run it pays off by the end.
Mhm.
But hopefully we can manage to do more win because in 2021 and 2022 I think we won like something with around 9 10 races each year. So and last year we only won three. So hopefully we can do better this year.
Hey, it worked for Alain Prost. That seems to be the
Yeah.
strategy, right? But yeah, bad news for the competition if Jordan Poirier wants to win more races. So the
Yeah.
you got a 410. I saw you run a couple All-Star races last year as well. It plans to do that again this year too?
Yeah, we're waiting on parts actually right now for our 410, but I just talked with Parker last week and he said it should be ready somewhat in April. So hopefully we can hit all the New York races
Mhm.
and maybe by the end of the year we could do travel a little bit to do some races. I want to dig in into the 410 racing. I think we've been running 360 for quite a few years and we've been doing good for ourselves. So we want to try and see if we can do good in those 410. But it's a different animal. It's
Yeah.
uh, when you're outside of it, you don't think it can be so much different, but it just drive different. The setup is different. All the some parts around the car are not built to be racing 360 and 410, and we slowly trying to figure it out. So yeah, we want to see. We want to do good. We did a top 10 in all-star races at our first
Mhm.
time trial, almost top five the next night, and then blew up a push rod, and then so we've been doing good. So hopefully we can do the result, hopefully win a race at some point.
T Talk a little bit about the difference between a 360 and a 410, because I've talked to a couple of drivers who have made the jump. And aside from the obvious horsepower difference, the one thing I've heard from guys is the kind of the clean air, the dirty air having more of an effect. Do you find that, or is there anything else that you kind of caught you by surprise, maybe?
I don't think I've done enough races to see that dirty air was so much of a difference, but I feel like the front of the car is so light that it
Mhm.
rates completely different. You would think that with having so much horsepower that you could drag, you could stop and go, as you can do a little bit in 360. But the 410, even there's so much horsepower, it's you need momentum. You don't need to stop. You need to always keep rolling. I think it's the one difference that I feel like I've can see right now. But other than that, I haven't done enough races. Sometimes it probably go a little bit too quick to me to figure it out while I'm racing.
What are some of your goals then? You said maybe by the end of the season you might want to do some traveling. Where do you want to be maybe in the next say 3 years, ideally, if it were up to you?
If it was up to me, I would like to race for a living. So
Mhm.
if it was up to me, I would love to try to do a full season on the road. But it takes some resources, it takes a lot of money to do that. But I don't know. I would love for the 410 to come a little bit more up north, so you can say like
Yeah.
it's worth to buy another engine to do more 410 races. Because as of now, I do think there's like four races in eight-hour radius from our place. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense financially to travel to do a lot of races. So 360 is still like there's probably like 50 races in the 6 hour radius from our place. So 360 is still dominant in the
Yeah.
Northeast. So we and I don't know how to say that, but the competition in 360 racing in the Northeast is one of the toughest in the country,
Mm.
probably. So it's still a pretty good competition. It's not a downgrade to be racing in 360.
Mm.
As you can see, Paul is doing really, really good in 410, and he's not as dominant. Like he's not killing everybody, all of us in the 360. Westbrook's been doing awesome in the 360 and 410. So the competition is as tough as anywhere in the country. So it's more prestige to race a 410 and do good
Yeah.
in a 410.
Yeah, that was the one thing when High Limit took over the All Stars I was really worried about. And then the schedule came out and it kind of confirmed my fears because, like you were saying, like yourself, Paulie, I know Jordan Thomas, Matt Farnham, like recently, Danny Varon, I think as well, recently bought 410s. And then the amount of races all of a sudden are cut in half or cut in two-thirds. And that sucks. And it sucks for guys, fans like me that want to see more racing up in this area because there's, like you said, there's so many talented drivers that maybe just don't get the spotlight.
Yes, that's hard because before the all the I limit, there were supposed to be have six all-star races in New York. So when we made the decision to buy our 410 engine, which cost probably around 40, 50K, like we were thinking maybe we can do like 5 to 10 races and it makes sense to buy it. But now with only 4 or 5 races, it'll it's a little more difficult to put some effort, like full on effort on into a 410 program. So that's why we decide to buy a new car for the 360,
Hmm.
concentrate our program onto the 360 again this year, try to do some 410 races, but put all our resources into it.
Yeah. So just a couple more before I let you go. The Empire Super Sprint schedule, it's a pretty busy one, which is really cool to see. Lot of great tracks. What are some of the kind of events that you're looking forward to that you've got circled? Obviously, the Nationals at Auschwitz a big one, big payday. So talk a bit about the ESS schedule and maybe where you're looking forward to going the most.
Yeah, the schedule has been really, really good this year. I feel like last year it was a lot of alone races, which is hard for us to do like 4 or 5 hours of traveling. But this year they try to put 2 or 3 races together, so it makes sense to travel to those races. I'm looking forward to the Quebec races, that's for
Mhm.
sure. Having Brockville back on the schedule, all those, all the Canadian track that I've been pushing a lot to have more Canadian races. The Cold Cup's back this year at Utica. It's been always a prestigious event for us. National 20 grand this year, so there's nothing. It's the best race in 360 probably all year long. Other than that, it looks Speed Week is always fun. It's good to be back on a five races in a row this year. It has been cut back since Weed Sport had taken 2 410 show and now
Mhm.
Outlaws cut back to one show, so they take us back during Speed Week. It's a long schedule. I think there's for 32, 33 races this year, so we'll be busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got a couple at Outlaws circled. I know I've got Weedsport, Brewerton, so I'll be seeing a bit of you this year. For people out there that want to follow along with your season, where can they find you on social media or your team?
They can follow me on Jordan Poirier Racing. It's my Facebook page and my Instagram page. That's where I put mainly all my result and schedule this where I decide to go races. I try to put the monthly schedules to give a people a know where we're going or what we're doing special with our sponsor, and that's where they can follow us.
Okay, perfect. Well, good luck this weekend. I'll see you next weekend at Merrittville. Hopefully the weather is good for both shows. And yeah, I'll be bumping into you a few times this year. So yeah, good to see you.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
All right. Happy to be joined now by DJ Christie, driver the number 5 in the Southern Ontario Sprint Series. How's it going, man?
I'm not too bad yourself.
Doing well, thanks. And wanted to have you on this eclipse day while we're recording because the only thing as bright as the eclipse is your race car. It's always easy to find out on the track. Um, so we got a big opening weekend next weekend with the Southern Ontario Sprints. How are things coming along for you guys?
Yeah, we're making progress. We plan on going to Merrittville this Saturday on the 13th to shake down the car and the motor. The motor just got freshened, so we want to just make sure everything's good there on that end and make sure the car is good on that end too, and just shake everything down and just knock some of the rust off, and hopefully we'll be good to go for the 20th.
Awesome. Yeah, I see a lot of guys looks like they're heading out on the test session this weekend, so that should be fun. If anyone wants to come out and watch that, support their local track a week ahead of time. Before we get into talking about this upcoming season, I wanted to learn a bit about you, how you got into racing, where you grew up, and maybe your family's background in racing.
Yeah, the our family has goes back 3 generations in racing. My grandfather raced and my dad raced, and now I'm racing. So my grandfather raced in a little bit in the 80s, and then he didn't race very much. So my dad got into it, and he did a lot of the cast car stuff and late model stuff and modified stuff too. And just kind of trickled into me wanting to get into it. So I started in go-karts, and then after go-karts, I actually ran a super stock at Delaware, and then did 2 years of that. And then Dad and I decided to go dirt racing. So we went racing at Ashweekon in the crate division. And then after a couple of years of that, and right after COVID, we switched to 360s, which we are currently racing, and we enjoy it a lot. I think it's the best series around, well, the best division, anyways, in Ontario, and everyone has a lot of fun. There's not really any politics, so that's what we like about it.
So your dad's background's on pavement. You started on pavement. What led to the decision to go dirt racing?
Sorry, I actually started in dirt go-karts and then
Okay.
trans to asphalt go-karts. But that's just what was around here. We ran at a little track in Tilsonburg just because it was half an hour from our house. It was the most convenient for me and my parents too. So, and Dad obviously was always on the asphalt. He's never made a lap on a dirt track. So we we had friends doing it at the time, and we just wanted a fresh start because the asphalt stuff was fine, but it wasn't really suited me the best, and we weren't as competitive as we wanted to be. So we thought it was time for a change.
That's cool. So you did the crate sprint thing, and then as you said, you jumped into the 360s coming out of COVID, and you were pretty successful right away. I was kind of bringing up your numbers from 2021. So that was the Knights of Thunder series, I believe, right? And now they've kind of merged or transitioned to the Southern Ontario sprints. So tell me about your first year into 360s and what that transition from crates was like.
So in 2021, we were actually running the crate and the 360
Okay.
at the same time. And I was going to do the whole action sprint tour with the crate and then just dabble a little bit with the 360. But we were at Humberstone doing double duty, and I got put in the wall pretty bad coming off turn 4 at Humberstone and rode off the crate car. So all we had left was the 360. So we went back out the next week to Southern Ontario Motor Speedway and we won there.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured we might as well just keep going with this 360 stuff and sell all of the crate stuff. And we had another win that season down in Brighton, and we should have had a third, but I might have blown it on the last lap at Merrittville to get the hat trick. But for our first season in the 360, we were pretty happy with that.
That's cool. So 2021's over. You go into 2022. How would you characterize the sophomore season, I guess, in 2022?
The sophomore season wasn't as good as we had hoped it to be. I don't know if we just set our expectations too high, and well, we just weren't as competitive as we wanted to be. We it was our first time being at Ashweekon in 360, so it was a lot faster than anything we had been running the year before with COVID, because obviously Ashweekon had been closed for a couple of years. And I don't know if the competition's just that much tighter there, but everyone's fast and you have to be on your A game every single night if you want to be in the top 5. And we had a few good runs, but no wins. And I don't know. It was just one of the tougher seasons we've had. It was kind of humbling.
Right. I was gonna ask you about that because you kind of had success right away, as you said, and then kind of I don't know if it's reality check is the right way to put it, but there's a lot of talent in this area, as you know. And last year, no wins, but you found the consistency. Like you had a really solid year last year. Um, 20 races, 9 top fives, 16 top tens. So you pretty nice bounce back. So talk about your year last year, kind of in general, coming out of 2022, where you admittedly struggled a little bit.
Yeah, last year we pretty much did everything but win. There
Right.
was 5 weeks in a row that we weren't off the podium and the money was coming in. And honestly, when you're running good, everything just seems to come a little bit easier. You got more payouts coming your way, so you can buy more tires. And yeah, just like I said, once you get going, you just kind of ride that wave until you fall off. And well, last year, the first practice session on Schweken, we blew up our motor, unfortunately, and we had to sit out the first night at our Schweken. So that put us in a hole after the first night. So we had to fight our way back to get ninth in the points. And I think if we would have not missed that first night, we would have been in top three easily halfway through the season. And then as a track got slicker, we had to adjust to that. And it wasn't our forte per se, but we actually found something that seemed to work very well. And we quite like the slick tracks now. It not that it's more fun. Obviously, the hammer down tracks are a lot more fun and
Yeah.
exciting. It's what I'm used to. I like to go pound the top, and at the end of the season, you always found me in the middle or right around the bottom.
Yeah, it's one of those things with I find with the tracks even upstate New York. If you're not good on the slick tracks, you won't be good kind of in this region because it kind of seems that they get that way. Um, so you got your first win at Southern Ontario Motor Speedway, and I was talking to Will Marsh a couple weeks ago. So that track is sticking around and it's back on your schedule this year. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Merrittville got a new surface this year. Um,
Yeah, I
so
actually saw that today that they did.
yeah, I think Darren Dryden was telling me about it a few weeks ago and how he's pretty excited about that. So hopefully we can see some more hammer down because I believe Southern Ontario Motor Speedway is more that way, is it not?
We went there last year and it was a little bit dusty. I don't know
Mhm.
if that's just the material down that way because the first time we were there, it was dusty, but they had enough moisture down at the bottom. We were able to stick it pretty good on the bottom. But we want to go back down there this year and see what it's like. With Merrittville, I just hope it stays together for the first few nights. Usually, when tracks put new dirt down, it tends to come apart. But as I saw in the update we got today from the SOS, that the track they've been working on the track for the last few weeks pretty heavily. So hopefully, it's packed down pretty good.
And so going into this year, coming off a pretty good year last year, and like you said, just if you're in the top five, if you keep doing that, eventually things are going to break your way, right? So what do you have to do to kind of break through this year and kind of continue that momentum?
I think if we keep doing what we did last year, then the wins will just start happening. And then once you get the first one, the rest of them come a little easier. I think even though we got two already, I wouldn't obviously count, but there was a little gap in there, so I'm hungry for another one and get on that train again.
Awesome. Do you have kind of a favorite track on the schedule? I put out on Instagram if anyone had any questions for you, and generally the questions that come in about any towards any driver, just do you have a favorite racetrack that's on your schedule?
Um, Favorite track is probably Oshweekon just because that's a nice facility around here and the widest and I think the most raciest. But my answer for that would be Oshweekon at the start of the year when there's a curb and you can go banging up the curb because at the end of the year it just kind of disappears.
Yeah. I like a guy that likes to ride the cushion up top. That's where you sell the most t-shirts I find if you're a driver.
Yeah.
So you're running the Southern Ontario sprint schedule, Oshweekon on Friday nights as well, I believe. Do you have
Yes.
anything else? Are you running any of the 360 events in the States? Do you have any of those maybe penciled in?
We've looked at a few. We don't have anything for sure yet. The one I want to get two is Eldora on August 3rd,
Mhm.
just as a bucket list thing. And I'm young, and there's no better time now. I'm able to do it, and I think we just want to knock that one off our bucket list.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there for the Kings Royal in July, and I've been there the last couple years. And if you're a sprint car driver, sprint car fan, you've got to go there because that place is fast. It's wild.
We only have one motor though, so I'm a little hesitant about it.
So you
But
just so you just
it
got
is
to
an
win
awesome.
some more races earlier in the year to
That's right. We need to win some of these big checks they're putting out a weekend.
That's awesome. So people want to follow you this season, follow your progress, your success. How can they do that?
My sister actually runs most of our social media, and she does a great job. It's on Christie Motorsports on Facebook and Instagram, and that you can come see us at the racetrack too, and we'll always come and say hi to you and make sure we do that. I think that's a big part of it, and yeah, we just help our fans out, and I think that helps us out too.
And see you're waiting to get the vinyl graphics on the car behind you. Who's helping you out this year on the car?
The big one on board this year, which is new, is Team Marine. They came on board this year, and we're hoping to do them proud and the rest of our sponsors too. We have Higgins on the nose wing this year, Affluent Insurance, and we really have a whole list of them. I can't really, I would take up too much of your time naming every single person that has helped us
Hey,
out.
they're the ones that pay the bills, man. It's all good. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Best of luck this year. I won't be at the test session this weekend, but like I said, I'll be at Merrittville next Saturday. So I'll make sure I come say hi. So again, thanks for coming on, man, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you for having me. We'll see you next week.